Hi, my name is Bethany, and today I'm going to be talking to you mostly about an article released by Spectrum News, I believe, and the connotation, or maybe the suggestion, that if only ABA were more regulated, it would basically be improved and basically wouldn't be bad ABA anymore. Now, if you didn't know, I made an obnoxiously long research video on ABA from the older practices and its history to current time and the issues surrounding what is being practiced today. All of that, I will link you that video if you are wanting to know. One day I'll put timestamps so you can skip around to things that you feel are more relevant to your research, because I know 2 hours is quite a long time. Anyway, I came across this article because someone had shared it, and I believe I'd actually seen it beforehand because it actually names a person that I know and kind of did them dirty. So this particular video might get a little sassy. Some of y'all love that, and some of y'all hate that. I apologize to those of you who don't enjoy my sassiness, but that's the kind of video we're doing today. We're gonna go look over this article and kind of talk about what it's trying to say and whether it's true that if ABA were just more regulated, it wouldn't be bad, basically. Before we get started, I wanted to show you my Autism Isn't a Dirty Word hoodie. I wore merch, I think, last video, and I forgot to bring attention to it. So there you go. If you want this design in a hoodie or other things, you can go ahead. There should be like a little, I think it's called a carousel, I don't know, a little thing underneath the video where you can click on items and check it out, or I will also have my Teespring store linked in the description box. Now, I have used Spectrum News as a source before, of course, usually because of research things, and I do click on their source links to check out the original things that they're talking about to make sure that's actually what it's saying, etc. And this is something I do with almost every source that I have access to, like their references and stuff like that. Spectrum News apparently doesn't have the best reputation amongst many people in the autistic community, so just a heads up there. However, I have used some of their articles before, especially in regard to research-based things. However, a lot of times it appears that they kind of push certain types of narratives that a lot of people disagree with. Now, this was actually published 28th of October 2020, which is this year, the lovely, lovely year. And it says, low standards corrode quality of popular autism therapy. Rapid growth and inadequate standards in the applied behavior analysis industry may put vulnerable children in the hands of poorly prepared technicians. Now, when you hear that, it kind of sounds like maybe we're going to actually critique some of ABA. Unfortunately, in general, this article kind of tries to insinuate like that's the problem with ABA. It is not. It's really not. But it is a problem with ABA, absolutely. It is one of the many criticisms that there are about ABA and just why, in general, it's, in my opinion, a bad idea. However, let us begin. When Tara Vance took a course to become a registered behavior technician RBT in 2015, she was trying to transition from a career as a teacher to one as a psychologist. To get the supervised hours she needed for her psychology license, she had taken a job working with mentally ill adults for a company in Lynchburg, Virginia. Instead, her employer told her the company had a backlog of autistic children and wanted her to help with that caseload. The employer paid for her to get the RBT certification, which would qualify her to deliver what many researchers consider the gold standard autism therapy, applied behavior analysis, or ABA, under supervision to these children. Apparently, in the first draft of this, if I recall correctly, they didn't say, you know, what many consider. They kind of implied that ABA was the gold standard, and I feel like this is a point to negate for reasons, because when you continue to say like, oh yeah, it's the gold standard, like, they want to be the gold standard, they want to be considered the gold standard, but if that's the gold standard, what are we doing to our autistic children? Like, seriously, if that's the standard, that's the gold standard? Part of why this really upset this person, Tara Vance, she is the founder of Neuroclastic, and she feels that a lot of what they had said, at least initially, and even still, were kind of implied in certain ways and taken a bit out of context to kind of push the narrative of the article, and her and I are both people who need things to be specifically correct. So if you hear me nitpicking on some things, it's because that genuinely bothers me. So if you don't understand, I'm not trying to just be a jerk. However, again, this is definitely going to be a bit of a sassy video. Vance completed the online course, a series of videos followed by quizzes from a company called Relias over a weekend. She was intent on learning the material, she says, but found out later that other students cut corners, letting the videos play while they did other things, and looking up quiz answers on their phones. It was easy to pass. If you failed a quiz, you could just rewatch the video and take it again. Vance had spent 14 years teaching English to middle and high school students, and she had developed a reputation for helping autistic students. She was diagnosed with autism herself in 2017, but when she started accompanying another RBT on home visits, she felt unprepared, she says. Extra training she received from her employer on privacy, patient rights, and restraint training did not add to her confidence. No one taught her how to change diapers or adequately manage aggression, she says, which she would have found more useful. Now, this particularly made her upset because it sounds like if we were taught to adequately manage aggression and change diapers, that would have been more useful to the RBT situation. She says she never even said manage aggression on her own without repeating back how someone else had said something. She wanted to make clear, this isn't what I said. I wasn't saying like, you know, if only you guys were like, hey, let's take a little training course in changing diapers and aggression management, I would have been totally prepared to perform RBT tasks. That's not what she's saying. However, this article kind of implies that the situation was kind of unprofessional and messy, and it is a lot of times with especially in-home RBTs because they're just going to someone's home, and a lot of times they treat them like babysitters. So, you know, those sorts of situations also happen. Vance also quickly became skeptical of the kind of therapy she was being trained to deliver. For example, she shouted at a more experienced RBT at the home of a 10-year-old boy with autism and intellectual disability who had memorized entire movie scripts. Vance recognized that he was communicating with humor and nuance by choosing lines to recite in various situations. But instead of engaging with him through movie lines, she was told by her supervisors to reward the boy with candy or cereal for following commands and completing trivial tasks such as stacking blocks. They were missing so much about this amazing human by just saying he was like a 3-year-old, says Vance, who now has Neuroclastic, a nonprofit blogging platform about autism. After a few weeks of working with the boy, Vance was laid off and her supervisor was fired, she says. She had actually shared a lot of her personal conversations with the person in regard to making this article to make it very clear what she actually did say, and I'll link those also below for you to look at in full. Apparently, I guess her supervisor was also neurodivergent and was very kind of lax with the ABA rules. So basically it wasn't like super strict ABA, basically, and then he ended up fired and then her being laid off. They're gonna make the argument here that ABA is about engaging the person, and absolutely it's not. ABA wants to get your attention. Yes, that's why there are treats, basically. ABA wants to get you to pay attention and want the reward, so you will do the command. That is, to me, not the same as engaging someone, and I would be floored if there was a BCBA, RBT group of people performing ABA who would engage with that child in movie script lines. Why? Because that is considered a useless thing that the child does. It's a type of perseveration, and for them, what did they call that? Stereotypy. And a lot of times stereotypy or stims or perseveration are things that are wanted to be eliminated from an autistic person, and that is very, very, very common in ABA and is in their own journals, and they're very freaking proud of it. So I just say, there is no world in which that the current group, nor really the past groups that actually follow ABA standards, would be engaging with this child in movie script lines or really caring that he was trying to communicate with those, because their job is to teach that child to follow commands and to say what they're supposed to say in a socially acceptable manner. And using echolalia in that form is not considered socially acceptable, and to teach him the correct skills would be to eventually eliminate that. And that's just the truth. I've done a lot of freaking research, and I've also talked with people who do ABA. I've watched people do ABA even though they were considered to be, even in the most lax situations, this wouldn't, like, I just really hate how they're going to basically try to imply that would ever happen. It wouldn't. ABA is not set up like that. The sprawling industry that has coalesced around ABA is causing frustration for many, technicians, clients, and experts alike. Plenty of therapists in a wide range of settings, including schools, homes, and clinics, do ABA well, and plenty of studies support its value, says Zachary Warren, a clinical psychologist at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. Support its value, I guess, to be fair, there's a lot of things out there that can support the value of something without being conclusive evidence. So fair enough, I guess, because there is no conclusive evidence that actually supports ABA. But ABA's worth depends greatly on who is delivering it, and I would say that's true in general for therapy, honestly. And as autism diagnoses and the demand for ABA have risen over the past decade, how to ensure people are qualified to deliver the therapy effectively has become a point of contention. I agree. This is one of many issues that are prevalent in ABA. You have the most regulated, most trained people doing the traditional ABA, low-VAS method, etc., the most regulated, supported by the Behavior Analyst Certification Board people, and that ABA is really not good. However, then you have the people who are trained by those kinds of people, trained in ABA, but don't really care. So then they're getting a form of a crappy therapy, but made worse because they don't even get the theories behind what they're doing. At least the people who are trained well might kind of get why they're doing what they're doing, kind of maybe get the spirit behind something to be able to modify things. But especially with a lot of these RBTs, it's just a checklist in front of them and that's what they're going to do. That's actually what they're trained to do. And when you send them out to homes by themselves and you have parents treating them like babysitters, this is just a recipe for disaster and, quite frankly, trauma. I told you I was gonna be a little bit snarky in this one. I told you. Sassy, snarky, that's what's happening in this video. I'm sorry. It's just happened. 6 years ago, the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, a non-profit corporation that establishes professional credentialing standards for behavior analysts, created the RBT qualification. Largely, they say, to ensure uniform standards for the technicians who increasingly do much of the frontline care. Compared with higher levels of certification that call for at least a college degree, these paraprofessionals only need a high school diploma, a 40-hour course, a background check, an in-person assessment, and starting in 2016, a written test. So before that, people could be a part of ABA, administering ABA, working one-on-one with these children without even that. So that's comforting, but at least they're trying, I guess. The new qualification was followed by a surge in the number of people certified to deliver ABAs. Critics, however, have challenged the standards for being too lax. It takes hundreds of hours of training over months to qualify therapists to work independently with children, they say. 40 hours? You've got to be kidding me. Put another zero behind that and maybe that would be closer, says John Bailey, an ABA expert at Florida State University in Tallahassee. So absolutely agree, because this causes a really dangerous situation. These are honestly glorified babysitters who are taught to teach some sort of compliance training to children who don't understand children at the levels that professionals are normally required to. So yes, that absolutely is concerning. However, that doesn't mean that if you fixed that, that would fix ABA, because absolutely it would not. And it's not just the credentials that have come under scrutiny. On-the-job coaching and supervision are supposed to make up for gaps in the training, but some RBTs find that the agencies they work for do not provide much of either. Technicians describe checked out or overworked supervisors, little guidance, and high turnover, which harms clients along with ABA's reputation. The RBT is the hands-on person, Bailey says. They should have a lot of training, because if they mess up, you're messing with people's lives. This is not like somebody burned a hamburger or something. Again, absolutely agree. However, It's not the crappy RBTs that ruin ABA. ABA as a field, as a practice, is bullcrap. And again, I went over that in a 2-hour-long video, so I'm gonna try to keep it to myself a little bit. But it is being treated like a part-time job flipping hamburgers, but you're working with autistic children and compliance training and manipulating behavior. These things are so important that it is concerning that it has been entrusted to people who don't know what they're doing at all. But let me make it clear that fixing the RBTs does not fix ABA. Yet critics say the agencies that hire RBTs often rely on a vast pool of undertrained labor. These businesses collectively train and employ tens of thousands of RBTs to work with children. It's being treated as a money grab in many places, Bailey says. He estimates that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these companies in the United States. Some are profitable enough that they have become popular buys for private equity firms. And again, I absolutely believe that. But here's the problem. It's because you're sitting here trying to say that this crap compliance training junk is somehow going to fix all these autistic children. You have these people finally understanding autism better to diagnose it, and doctors who don't know any better are immediately saying, oh, ABA is wonderful, go have your kid do that. And then of course you've got opportunists over here like, sweet, we make a crap ton of money from working in this particular field. Let's hire some kids who don't know what the crap they're doing, give them a little training course that's been set up for us, and pay them. I think the last one of the ones that I saw was like $15 an hour for these people who go through a tiny little training course and have a high school diploma. Again, definitely is an issue, but I will repeat this every single time. Fixing the RBTs does not fix ABA. Some experts are calling for more stringent certification standards. Others in the field, including Melissa Nozick, Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, maintain that variation in treatment quality exists in many fields. Training requirements evolve, they say, and the system is doing its part to help meet the demand for qualified people to deliver ABA. Well, yes, it's true. Obviously, you're going to get different qualities of care within a standard of variation because, you know, you've had good teachers, bad teachers, good doctors, bad doctors, etc. People who don't really fit well. In the meantime, families and therapists are left in a tough spot. If you have a kid with autism, you're desperate to get those services, and I don't think you're willing to wait until we figure out all of the right things about training, fidelity, and implementation, Warren says. You want services now, and you want to be able to have a workforce to deliver that. Okay, for everyone's sanity, I'm gonna skip through. Basically, they're like, oh, it's amazing. This is where ABA came from, and conditioning behavior. And I love this line. Although scientific support for the method is not rock solid, exactly, it's really not. In fact, my favorite part is that some of the things that people point to be like, look, this proves that it was ABA that was working, is the same exact data that tells you that ABA does not work long time, meaning that you're not actually learning, you are just memorizing how to perform for the people in the moment. There are lots of anecdotal reports. Okay, but there's also a megaton of anecdotal reports saying the opposite, as well as this magical thing called science and data, which you just said there isn't any solid scientific support. Gee, I wonder why. Anecdotal reports of success abound too. It's amazing when it's done right, says B. Lynn, a woman in California whose 20-year-old son was diagnosed with autism around age 5. Obviously withholding names to protect privacy. The family has worked with several ABA agencies over the years. Her son used to vocalize loudly about 100 times a day because, again, this is what ABA does. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing now? Oh, you vocalized. Oh, you vocalized. Oh, you vocalized. It's treating the person like they're an experiment. I'm not kidding you. Like, I get taking data and doing things that are supported scientifically and are evidence-based. Absolutely, that's great. But to the extent that ABA takes it, you really do treat that person like they are an experiment. Making it seem like he was minimally verbal, even though he can be chatty. With help from an ABA therapist, though, at age 14, his vocalizations dropped to fewer than 5 a day, and he was able to attend school with peers for the first time since he was 5. ABA also helped potty train the boy. They taught him to shower and eat more than one color of food. Oh my god. When done well, ABA often looks like play. In what world? In what world? Oh my god, okay. With learning happening through shared engagement and activities, Warren says, when he evaluates a child, he looks for opportunities to connect with the child through activities that dovetail with the child's interests, he says. No, you don't. No, you do not. No, you do not. ABA does not do that. ABA finds out what a child is interested in to exploit it, to be able to say, well, you like this, right? Well, now you have to do these tasks so you can get that, okay? Don't even play. If because we're using blocks means it looks like playtime, maybe, but it doesn't look like playing. Like, I don't even, I'm just, this is such crap. I'm mad. If we have more moments of engagement like that, we have more moments to be teaching about language or different ways of playing or interacting. But that's not how ABA works. That is not how ABA is set up. The moments of engagement where they have opportunities to teach new things, a lot of times that's them taking a breather from being super regimented. The autistic person does something and they latch on to that to make a program around it. The majority of therapists are not abusive, and I will say the majority of therapists are not intentionally abusive, but that doesn't mean that what they're doing isn't harmful, even though they don't mean to be harmful. I don't believe that most people who do ABA, I don't believe that they mean to harm. I don't believe that parents believe that they are harming their child. I think they believe that they're doing what is best because that's what they've been told. Like, this is what's best for your child. And see these things, this is all because of ABA, blah, blah, blah. So again, I'm not saying that. I don't think that most people who practice ABA are bad people, or parents who have their child in ABA are bad people. I don't believe that. I believe they love their children, and these therapists love the people that they work with. How to the ever, that doesn't mean that ABA is good. Part of the problem is that most RBT training courses teach formulaic, child-unfriendly techniques as if delivering ABA were like following a recipe Leaf says. The funny thing about this is someone had mentioned in the comments below, someone sharing this article to talk about it in a group, that I believe it's this Leaf person who is a proponent of the Lovaas method. The most formulaic. They literally made videos to show you because it is like following a recipe. You treat all the children the same. You might take their data differently, and because of the data and what the parents want, it's different. This is my favorite. This is my favorite. For example, technicians might be taught to use simple instructions, such as do this, instead of varying language and altering words to match a child's ability to process complex instructions, such as do what I'm doing or can you copy me? Hey guys, guess what? Like, you know how like RBTs can be better? Instead of saying copy me, can you copy me? Oh, isn't that great? Like, I feel like we've connected. Seriously? Oh, yeah, they are taught, like, literally, as part of the training in ABA in general, they are taught to be as concise and direct as possible with their commands because they don't want them to, And yes, I know. I'm sorry, it makes me angry. Like, you really think saying can you copy me instead of copy me this is facilitating a more specialized type of therapy, special just for you. This is engaging with your child because we said can you copy me instead of just copy me. Can you do what I'm doing? Do what I'm doing instead of do this. Wow, we're so much more dynamic. Are you for real right now? This is how we fix ABA, guys. Just say a few more words to sound nicer, and now you've engaged with the autistic person. Many courses teach technicians to do the exact same thing with every client in the same sequence every time, Leaf says. They also advise the use of explicit rewards such as candy, which can seem demeaning at times and don't work as well as the positive feedback that occurs naturally through interaction. You mean naturally, like, yay! And let me give you tickles and rubs on the back every time you do exactly what I say. But when you don't do what I say, I'll say, I'm sorry, that's not right. And you do it again. Or you take the items away instead of giving the little yay and high five. You don't think that's demeaning? Because I think that's demeaning. Vance, so we're quoting our friend here again, was appalled that her RBT course instructed her to buy a clicker at a pet store. The course instructed technicians to use the clicker to reinforce desired behaviors in children, she says, just as pet owners might use it to train dogs. And I haven't checked the comments myself, but I did hear that people were defending the use of clickers in ABA. There's no defense for that. There is no defense. You can't say you're not treating people like dogs when you literally went out to buy a clicker to reinforce behavior. Autistic adults who had ABA as children have criticized the therapy for forcing them to act in ways that made them uncomfortable, for pathologizing their neurodiversity, and for being too scripted, inflexible, and robotic. Parents say that a child can be discouraged by bad ABA, and that a lack of progress is harm enough given the stakes and the cost. Over the years, Lynn's son had a few therapists who talked down to him, she says, which irritated and frustrated him, so they did not last long. We can see a definite difference when we don't have great people. So again, there are great people who don't talk down to their clients. That doesn't make ABA better. This whole entire article is trying to say if ABA is done by professionals who are well regulated, then it'll all be better. But that's a bunch of crap. And a lot of the stuff that they're saying, like, well, you know, the criticism is this, and well, we should just train the RBTs better. But like the training that the RBTs got, that they're testifying to, that they're sharing with you, is made by professionals in the ABA field to align with ABA standards. So don't try to play dumb right now. Like, don't try that. Don't try to be, oh, well, you know, it's just that one RBT course. Who greenlit that course? Who created that course? With what in mind did they have? Y'all try to cover up your nasty by trying to play innocent, like, oh, you know, actually it's the RBT's fault. No, it's not. This is ABA. Leaf has testified in lawsuits related to ABA that included questions about legally meaningful progress. One case in which he served as an expert witness for a school district involved a 9-year-old boy who was doing virtually identical tasks every day for 5 years and had made minimal progress in that time. His lessons never changed to accommodate his shifting needs or to respond to what was not working. When I have a child at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to do something different at 9:10 because good ABA adjusts to the learner constantly. Leaf says you have to be well trained to do that. So he's saying that if I do something different at 9:10, that is meeting the needs of the client, and doing something different and really responding to screw this. I can't even. Just because you did something different at 9:10 doesn't mean that the overall task that you're asking that 9-year-old or whoever to perform over and over and over and over and aren't working. Just because you mix them up and turn them around a little bit and shuffle where they are in the schedule does not mean that you have made it flexible and specialized to that person. You have not helped anything. You've just patted yourself on the back because you were like, well, instead of having them stack 5 blocks at 9, we'll do it at 9:20. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you really? And here's how ABA is set up, by the way. If they haven't mastered that task, even if the person knows they know how to do that task because they did it yesterday, they have to prove it through a certain process with the data. So if that child isn't up to doing the same freaking stupid thing again today, they considered to have failed that task and therefore have not learned that task and have to do it again in their program. So don't even start with me. Don't even. This is such bullcrap. And then basically they go on and on about the expansion of ABA, the credentialing thing, the whole thing with basically, wow, there seems to be a lot more autistic people now, We have lots of people who need ABA. And we're talking about insurance coverage being mandated for ABA, which is really sad in my opinion. And then they basically go on to blame RBTs, basically. RBTs, they note that RBTs are saying like, this is really frustrating. They feel like just anyone's hired. We need more quality control. And then we get to the bottom, because they started with Vance, they're gonna end with Vance. Vance still thinks about the boy who quoted movie scripts and the failure of a conscripted therapy to connect with him. He thought in archetypes, like all of the greatest spirits from literary and historical acclaim, and that was how language acquisition and communication worked for him, she says. But the tasks he was given were so menial. The focus should be on how to help other people recognize that kind of brilliance. That is beautiful, what Tara said, what Tara Vance said, and it's true. But the fact that someone, after saying all the things that they said with this article, thought that this was a meaningful ending, that somehow controlling RBTs better was going to result in what she expressed. What kind? Are you okay, man? Like, are you tripping? Like, for real? Because you can quality control the RBTs, which, I mean, at least there's some more oversight. I would appreciate that to, you know, minimize abuse and situations that are dangerous. But the best regulated ABA to the BACB's or BCAB's standards, not good. It sure as heck does not recognize that child. It would want him to stop quoting movie scripts, because that's not what's acceptable and useful, and in fact they would say this was meaningless. This is meaningless things that he does, and we're going to train it out of him, and we're going to train him how to say these words for these things because this is meaningful language and meaningful communication. No, like, I'm a little angry. So for the question, is quality control the issue with ABA? The answer is it's an issue, but not the issue. If ABA was better quality controlled in regard to RBTs, would it be good ABA? No. No. So the answer to the question is no. No. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize for how snarky and sassy I am. I am a little bit riled up, just a little bit, and I know that this isn't exactly one of the many topics that some of y'all have suggested, but I saw it and I was like, you know what, we're gonna talk about it. So we talked about it. I love you guys so much. If you found this video informational, interesting, whatever else, go ahead and hit the like button. Let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments below. Be sure to check out the description box for Tara Vance's whole side of what she was wanting to say versus what was said in the article, etc. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you're interested in autism related content from me, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I upload to this channel every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you to everyone who supports me here on YouTube as YouTube members, my patrons over on Patreon, and a special thank you to my Spaz tier patron, Philip Noah. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!